This is James Gray from the Michigan Institute of Athletics. This is going to be the first ever podcast from our new studio. With me today, I have Caleb Balgaard, a local athlete that's going to be telling a little bit about his story and his background. So, Caleb, introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of your background. You know, are you a Michigan native? Where did you go to school? Your age, your basic stats.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm Caleb Balgaard, as you said. I'm 22 years old. I was born here in Michigan, lived in the same house my entire life in Heartland, Michigan. So about 20 minutes from here, and I went to Howell High School, school of choice. And I was actually homeschooled, so that was kind of interesting. My whole family was homeschooled. So I have 3 older brothers, 4 of us all together. And my mom was a trooper, stayed home, and she homeschooled all 4 of us at the same time. It was pretty wild.
Wow. Yeah, that's a unique start, man. That's a start that a lot of people don't have, but you probably have certain advantages from that lifestyle growing up, and there's probably certain challenges that you face that most people wouldn't realize.
Oh, yeah.
How old were you when you first got into sports, and like what sports did you play initially?
I'm pretty sure I started at 5 or 6 as soon as I could, basically start sports. And it was baseball, football, and then every sport me and my brothers played. We were always playing something. So, but actual sports where you're playing with other kids you don't know, it was baseball and football.
That makes sense. You have a bunch of brothers. You're competitive growing up. You're homeschooled, so you're probably spending a lot of time around each other. Mm-hmm. There's the will to try to figure out the pecking order.
And I had to get going quick because we had to have 2-on-2 games, and being the youngest, I had to get myself going quick.
You got to pull your weight.
Right. Otherwise, I was left out. And I hate being left out.
So, what was the moment that you realized, I want to be a professional athlete. I want this to be a career. And, what gave you the belief or the confidence to follow that path?
I would have to say that was freshman year of high school. And it was I'm pretty sure it was the day that I found out that I'd made varsity. Because I had heard that I was the first ever to make varsity at Howell High School as a freshman. And at that point, I was like, wow. Like, I feel like I could go far with this. Like, I'm pretty good at this age. Let's see where this goes. And then right from there, I was like, I want to play pro baseball. I'm going to work to do that. Like, I'm going to put everything I have into becoming a professional baseball player.
So you got that initial spark, and that was like the feeling that, wait a second, maybe I can be something special. Like, as a freshman, I'm already being seen as talent.
Yeah.
And in a school's first, which is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was the first bit of like confidence that I got, a really big confidence boost from someone else saying, here's this spot for you, you've earned this, this is where we see you, and it was above anything anybody had ever done at Howell before. So it was a cool experience actually to have the coaches at Howell, Weatherly and Ladd, give me the opportunity. And I didn't end up doing that great, but being on varsity as a freshman in itself was just an awesome learning experience.
Yeah, you're already starting to stretch your mind at that point. You're starting to realize, like, wait a second, what potential do I actually have? Even if this isn't a great year for me, I'm already breaking barriers. I'm setting new records. I'm setting new standards for what can be done. I'm a freshman that's going to start on the team. Were your older brothers into sports a lot? Like, did you see them playing and being successful, and that's why you followed that? Or were you more of the standout athlete of the family?
They might joke about that, but they would say I'm probably the standout athlete. They might actually hold their pride and say that. Just because I got to learn from them, right? They were paving the road for me. My oldest brother, Nick, he played sports all up until I think he was 16, and he hurt his shoulder playing baseball, so he was done. But he really wasn't, I don't think he was going to play in college or anything like that. He wasn't that good, but he was really athletic. And then Dave came along, the next oldest, and he ended up playing baseball at Grand Rapids CC for a year, and then decided he didn't really like baseball anymore. But he had potential of being a D1 athlete as well. So that was the second oldest. And then Ben came along. He was being sought after by a lot of D1 schools. And then he didn't end up hitting well his junior year, and they all kind of passed on him. He ended up going to a D2 school and absolutely crushing it there. Started as a freshman, did great. And so that's kind of where I was. And it was just kind of building blocks. The brother that continued just barely didn't make it, and then once again didn't quite make it, and then I made it. And I think it was just getting better as we got younger type of thing. just because I was learning from what they were doing.
That makes sense. And you were kind of seeing pieces fall in line. You saw how far one person made it. And you could take a little bit of inspiration from that. You can learn lessons from that.
Exactly.
And then you saw another brother make a little bit more progress, and you started to be able to figure out, common denominators, or like, what did he do a little bit different that took him to the next level?
Exactly.
So you're like the next in line to really push that boundary. So tell us a little bit about where you're at right now. Like, what part of your career you're at. You played in college, right? Let's talk a little bit about that. And what part of the stage are you at right now? What can happen next?
Well, so the MLB draft just happened, and I was a potential 5th round guy with a couple different teams. And it was kind of a bubble guy because in that 5th round, 4th and 5th round of the draft being shortened so much, there was a lot of deals being made in those rounds. And so I was hoping that I was going to have a deal made for me. Since I was a junior college player, they were picking a lot of guys who have played at D1 level for a long time. They've shown themselves for a while. So they have a lot of information on them. So a junior college guy, it's harder for them to get drafted high due to maybe not seeing that high of talent all the time or something like that. So I got a call in the 3rd round from the Blue Jays, and they said they weren't taking me. So that was kind of crushing. I had my whole family there and all that stuff, but I had heard from a lot of different teams that they were hoping that I could sign free agency. And then when free agency came around, a lot of the teams were told they're only taking certain players because of the money problems, right? So I was kind of passed on, as of right now, even for signing free agency. Even though all these teams that saw me as a potential 6th, 7th round pick for them, they weren't even allowed to give me the money to be a free agent. So right now, I'm still kind of hoping that they're going to give me the opportunity. Blue Jays are still in the mix of possibly being able to give that to me, but there's no guarantees. So I'm taking this as an unbelievable motivator. Like if I'm going to college next year, I'm top 3 rounds. Like that is my goal, and I know that I can do that. I've jumped from not even being seen my first year of actually playing baseball at Iowa Western and doing extremely well, not even being seen by any scouts, to the following year being a potential 6th round draft pick with a bunch of teams. Like if I take that same step, which I feel like I have every year, I mean, that's high rounds, and I know I can do that.
So that's one of the things I noticed about you right away, and probably the reason you're the first guest on the Michigan Institute of Athletics podcast is, regardless of this COVID thing going on in the world, regardless of all the chaos that the world is in, regardless of the fact that the draft got cut short on the year that you happen to be, possibly getting signed, these are all really difficult things that could have easily put you into a very down state. You could have been, sitting around being like, why did this have to happen to me right now? You show up every single day. You absolutely crush it in the room. You're always smiling. You're always high energy. You're always pushing the level. I saw you do a 65-inch one-legged jump the other day. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It was absolutely ridiculous. And I go, man, here's a guy who is absolutely crushing it every single day, who easily could be the guy making excuses or saying, well, it's the only reason I didn't get signed is because of this or that, and you're not that guy. So You're the type of person that I think not only myself but many other people want to see succeed, is people that you don't make excuses. You go, okay, you don't sign me this year, I'm going to crush it so much next year that you'd be insane to pass on me.
Right. I appreciate that. I think the no excuses, I can do that physically so well, it's unbelievable. I can go into a gym and almost kill myself every single day and not have any excuses, and that came from, so my dad got diagnosed with a serious illness at Indiana, a terminal illness, actually, that ended up, he passed away from. And so that was part of my story of things didn't work out at the D1 school, right? But through that, my dad, he was a bodybuilder. That's what he loved to do. He was just always in the gym from the day I can remember. I hear my dad downstairs, working out it was a program called Big Fun. And some people may have heard of it. It's it's just an old muscle-head workout type of thing. And so that was what he loved to do. And then when he was going through this illness, it was an extremely painful illness, really, really painful. So when he was going through it, that helped me in the weight room to not care at all about this pain that I'm going through, because I know if my dad could be doing this right now and going through this pain, he would be. So there was days when he was really getting close to when he passed away. I was in the weight room at Iowa Western, and some friends may remember this, but I was full on bawling in the weight room while I was doing weights that nobody else was doing. And I was a little psychotic for a little while in the weight room because I had that thing in my mind of if my dad could be doing this right now, he would be, and no pain can compare to what he's going through right now. So who am I to think this is painful? It's not. It's not at all.
Man, you're already you're leading into the next question I was going to ask you. I was going to say talk about the challenges that you faced in your life to be where you are. Mm-hmm. And I mean, losing a parent, you don't know much about my background story, but my mother committed suicide when I was younger. Oh, wow. And it's weird how that can fuel you. I mean, it can break you. It can be the reason that you don't get up in the morning, or the reason that, you can be a victim. You can just say, well, this happened to me, and this is why I took this route, or I went this direction, or I went to drugs, or I turned to this addiction. Right. Or you can use that as, you know what, I'm going to live a better life in honor of that person.
100%.
Because I see how short life is and how quickly it can all be changed and taken away. You witnessed your dad fueled by passion, a motivated man crushing it to having that stolen from him by something out of his control. So that allowed you to basically take that fuel and be like, you know what, there's no excuse that's going to stop me now, because I've seen what that man would endure, and if he in this moment could be doing that still, he would without question.
Right.
So that's incredible, man, and that's the type of things in life that it's a weird coincidence how many people that make it to the top, like friends that are close to me in my life that are very successful, they tend to have a lot of pain at some part of their story. It's weird because it manifests itself as a desire for greatness.
It does.
And Joe Rogan is somebody I listen to a lot, and he basically, I feel like the world does at this point. But he's talked before about the ways that greatness and madness are almost hand in hand. You have to be willing to push boundaries that most people just aren't. They're not willing to endure the amount of discomfort and suffering and, every day not knowing if you'll reach your goals or not, still waking up and just going for it regardless. You're a testament to that.
Yeah. Another thing that maybe has fueled me is actually being mad. Being mad at what people have done to you. In a way of, I'm a forgiver. Like, someone does something to me, I forgive them, and I'm past it, right? Because that's, like, I'm a Christian, so that's how I believe I should be, right? So I forgive people, but I still have that, I'm going to either show you what I can do. So let's say it's a coach and they didn't believe in you. I'm going to be like, oh my goodness, I'm a little mad at that. I'm going to show you that I'm going to do it, So that started in Indiana. So my freshman year, being redshirted, going through what happened with my dad, and also in the same year, so right before Christmas break, it was my last final before coming home for Christmas break. I get a call from my brother, and he was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he rarely calls me, and I'm like, "Doing well. How are you doing?" It's just weird. And he asked me what else I had. I said I had a final, and he's like, "Okay, yeah, okay." And you're driving home. I was, yeah. So anyways, when I get home, I'm super excited to be home. Like, my energy coming home was awesome. I get home, and everyone's happy to see me. And then my dad calls me into our living room, and my whole family's sitting in there. I'm like, hey, this is cool. And then they told me that my godfather passed away from, he had cancer for the second time, and this time it, took his life. And so my middle name, I'm named after this man. Like, he was my pastor my entire life and my godfather. And he passed away the day I got home. So I was going through his sickness, my dad's sickness. And also, before I came home, I also got gang beat by 15 people all at once. And I almost died on the ground. So at Indiana, I had almost got beaten to death for something I didn't do. This was a racial thing again, which sucks. And somehow they thought I was the one that was saying this crap, which is just horrible. And then I'm on the ground getting almost beat to death. So I had severe cuts and bruises all over. It was insane. I could have lost my life. So I was going through that, my dad's sickness, that sickness, and then as soon as I get back to school, my coach at the time tells me I'm being redshirted. And I was like, that was the most crushing day of my life. Like, I'm in this man's office, and I'm crying. And he didn't really I know he had a heart towards what I was going through, but at the same time, I was one of his number one recruits in our class. Like, I had all this hype about me, right? I was going to be a starter as a freshman, all this crap, which, that can mean nothing, right? That is all hype. and ended up getting redshirted. So that was one of the hardest days of my life. After that, oh my goodness, have I been fueled. Like when he said that, I was like, you know what, you're making a mistake. Every day, my goal was to be so good in practice, so good in BP. Everything they let me do, I was going to make them regret having me be redshirted. So my goal every day was to have them pull me out of redshirt. And oh my goodness. That next summer, I went out and played summer ball. I hit better than everybody on that team, more home runs, and hadn't played a single inning at Indiana. And I was playing with like a freshman Big Ten All-American who recently just got drafted in like the 3rd round, Jordan Nwogu, a friend of mine. He's a stud. So I was playing with him and a bunch of other Big Ten players, and I just crushed it. And I was like, this is awesome. And then Indiana got a whole new coaching staff. So after this summer, I'm expected to go back to Indiana and play. Sophomore year, play. Redshirt, sophomore year. And that coach ends up basically telling me he thinks it's best that I leave and go play junior college. So I'm like, I just had the best summer of my life playing with all these other Big Ten players that played at their schools and did well, and I did better than all of them. What is this? Why don't you want me? And I think this decision that he helped me make was actually the best for my life. At the time, it sucked. Once again, being pushed down, saying you're not good enough to be here, which hurt and drove me. So he ends up telling me to leave, and I left, went to a junior college, and had the time of my life. Made the friends for a lifetime, and took second at a College World Series, and ended up being one of the best years of my entire life. So, but like you said, that could have shoved me down so hard and never have recovered. And just this last spring or fall, that same Indiana coach that came into Indiana, he re-offered me. So he wanted me to come back to Indiana, which I love that guy for helping me leave, actually, because I think it was best for me. And then actually wanting me back, it showed that he was a caring person, really caring about what I was going to be going through. And so he re-offered me, and that was a goal that I thought I had reached without even it being a goal in my life, but just seeing a coach that said, I don't really want you right now, and then saying, I want you really bad, was cool. And that I still call that guy to this day. I have a good relationship with him. He's a really, really awesome guy.
Yeah, that's incredible. That shows that he acknowledged how much, you put all of your effort, all of your energy, you sacrificed, you did the things that you knew you were capable of doing, but for some reason you weren't being recognized for. Yeah. You were saying, why in the world am I not getting this opportunity that I know I deserve? And in a weird way, there's another blessing in your life, man. Another thing that where some people would have been the victim, they would have been crumbled, they would have stopped. It made you level up again. You have a repeating pattern now as we go through this story that every time somebody tells you no or a door shuts, you just kick another one open.
Right.
That's very cool. And it's weird. You tapped into something that actually reminds me when I was younger and I was competing, I competed with a really big chip on my shoulder. So I'm a self-taught martial artist, which doesn't really happen. Like I only trained at an actual school for less than a year. Wow. And I started studying on my own. So back in the day, it was just unheard of. You just don't do that. You go to school and you learn from somebody and you get ranked under them. And I did my own thing from the beginning. And I had so many people telling me, like, you're not going to be able to do this. You can't be a gym owner. You can't give people rank. You're not going to ever be a professional fighter. And I know the exact feeling that you're talking about. That fueled me. I had this feeling of, I don't know, just like, let me show you. Don't believe me. Think that I'm not capable of this, and I'm going to not only prove you wrong, but absolutely crush your expectations of me. Right. You don't know who I am. You don't know my spirit. You don't know my energy. You don't know how much I will sacrifice to be successful. Right. And it's that same spirit that you can tap into, man.
The underdog mentality.
Yeah. And you know what? In a weird way, it's easier to be an underdog in life. Like most of my best performances in my life were when I was counted out.
Exactly.
When you count me out, I crush you.
Exactly.
But it's almost harder to be the guy that everyone just expects to dominate. Right. Because then all of a sudden you have this world pressure that you're carrying, that you have to obtain perfection, which is not possible. Right. But if someone counts us out, it's like, okay, you believe that I'm not able to do this, that it's not possible for me, and I'm going to prove you wrong.
Right.
Man, that's your story already has completely motivated me. If we cut the podcast now and we're not even halfway through, this story is incredible, man. And this is a story that, people need to hear and the word needs to get out because, like I said, I see you show up every single day and give 1,000% in this building while a lot of people might just be sitting around or taking this time off or COVID's all over the world. So they're just chilling, telling people they're still working hard. you're working hard. You know, how has coronavirus affected your life beyond? So it cut your draft short. What is the draft normally? I'm not as familiar.
40 rounds.
40 rounds.
40 to 5.
You would have been, for sure. I mean, you would have gone in top 10.
100%. There was a lot of teams that had me in the top 10 and a bunch of teams in the 6th to 8th. So right in there. So, and top 10 is a bigger deal. Like the top 10 is, the way the draft works is top 10, I'm pretty sure you can get like any amount of money. There's no cap, basically. And then after the 10th round on to 40, I think you're capped at like, it was like 125 or something like that. So
those are the premier rounds. If you go top 10, you're...
Yeah, kind of. Yep.
That makes sense. Wow, that's incredible, man. So, I mean, because you've worked your entire life for this moment, the world goes into madness, and then, you know, an opportunity gets pulled from you. And again, what happens to you? You go, all right, I'm going to crush it so much more that I'll be undeniable next time. Watch me go top 3 rounds next pick.
Right.
You know, that's incredible, man. Tell me a little bit about your daily motivation then. Like, you wake up in the morning. Do you just wake up fueled with energy and you're ready to attack the day? Do you have a routine that you do? Do you have any certain processes that you think contribute to that success?
Depending on where I'm at in life. So if I'm at college, my routine is way different than it is right now. Right now I'm living with, at home right now with my mom. And I get up pretty much around 10, so I'm not getting up early. I don't lie about that.
No, I appreciate the honesty.
Right. So
a lot of people are, oh yeah, I'm up at 6 a.m. every day, killing it, crushing it.
No, I'm like that at school, but not right now. So I'm getting up pretty late. Usually I'm keeping up the house with my mom, so I'm doing a lot of work for her because she's, at a home by herself. So I'm doing a lot of work for her in a day. And then I'll come here, work my butt off, and then I go back home and do as much. And it's a lot of physical work. So I'm coming here doing all this physical work, and then I'm going home and doing a lot more physical work with my mom. Or for my mom. But other than that, and then I go hit for a while, and then I go throw, and I'm getting everything I should be in with that. And then I'm also working on my own company with Aspen Laser Systems. It's a red light therapy. So right now I'm working on getting that caught up to speed, and I want to be able to, as soon as I'm able to run with this as a company, it's going to be ready to go and just go. So I'm not able to do it right now due to just where I'm at in life because I'm either going back to college where I can't really be doing that or, if free agency comes along, I won't be able to do that. But it's there, and I'm getting it ready to where as soon as I'm ready for it to just shoot out, I'm going to do it. So that's what I'm doing right now, and my motivation just comes, it's still just driven from my dad. Our dreams together, he was my hitting coach, so our dreams were to be drafted. So that was another hard thing, like draft day. I'm sitting there, and I really felt in my heart that it was going to happen, and it didn't. And I was crying. After I got that call, I went into a different room, just kind of by myself. My whole family's there. It was a fun day up until then. And I was just kind of crying a little bit because I'm like, this was like my year. And then the virus took it all away. And it was sad, but oh my goodness. After Sunday, being told that even the free agencies might not work, I was like, I'm mad. I'm mad now. I'm going to, you know what?
You're fueled.
Next year, I'm getting paid.
Full gas tank.
I'm going up.
They just completely fueled the monster sitting across me. And you said, listen, you've seen what I've done before, and it's going to take place again.
Yep.
What would you say was the hardest moment of your life then? Because you've experienced a lot of tragedy even just hearing the story. But that I can imagine that draft day, sitting down, you're expecting to hear your name, but you have the day most difficult moment of your life.
Man.
Can you even pick one?
There's a lot. The last 3 years of my life have been really hard. There's been so much. But hands down, it was the day I had actually gotten a call. It was around, I think, 3 o'clock, and I was at Iowa Western. So this is my second year of school. This was in the fall. We were playing a lot of games, and I was doing really well. Ended up getting a call from my brother basically saying, Dad hasn't eaten in a couple days. He hasn't been able to eat. He hasn't drank in a couple days. We think he might pass away maybe tonight. So I got flown home that day. And graciously, everyone at school, all the teachers, they're all like, don't worry about a thing. When you get back, we will have, if you get through a test, we might just give you 100%. Don't worry about it. Spend time, do what you need to do, which was amazing. So many blessings there. And I get home, he hadn't ate anything for like 4 or 5 days. He didn't end up passing away that night. He actually was alive for the whole week that I was home. So after a week of him being home, I was like, well, I can't really be here forever. I got a lot of time with my dad, more than I ever thought I would because I was at school. I think I'm ready to go back. So I ended up going back to school. He went 40 days without drinking a thing and out eating a thing. And I'm talking, he looked like he came out of a concentration camp. So at this horrible health, he went 40 days and he died on the 40th night of not eating or drinking. And in the Bible, Jesus went 40 days and 40 nights without eating or drinking. So up until literally the day my dad passed away, I still had hope that there was going to be like a miracle or something. And so I'm back at school, and I got a call from my mom, which she never calls me, you know, I think it was 8 o'clock in the morning. I was headed to breakfast. She never calls me that early. I knew exactly what it was. So I got to pick up, and that was probably the hardest day of my life. I walked into breakfast, and my buddy Tristan, one of my best friends, helped me through so much. His dad had passed away, so he had been through kind of the same thing only probably 4 or 5 months before me that his dad passed away. So he was right there. I just went up to him, I said my dad passed, and he gave me this big hug. And it was just, he helped me through so much. But that was hands down the worst day of my life.
And, forward thinking, that day that you walk out on that MLB field for the first time with this story, with this background, with everything you've gone through, and knowing that, like, your dad is in spirit looking down on you and realizing, like, my son made it. My son did it. He accomplished the dream that we set out to accomplish because, like you said, we had the dream of me getting drafted and making it to the MLB, and you're one of the people that truly has that capability now. That's going to be an unbelievable moment. So although you've experienced this incredibly low moment in life, you have the opportunity to experience maybe an equally incredible high moment in life.
Exactly. And
in a weird way, I've talked about this before, is really painful and really powerful moments give you like a more beautiful view of life because you just have such a broad perspective. Like what you consider to be a painful day is so much different than most people. You know what I mean? Most people, their dog gets sick and it's a tough day. You know what I mean? It's like the more pain and tragedy and suffering that you go through, the more that you just kind of have a handle on this life, that you know what's good and bad. And it almost makes you more grateful, more appreciative, more thankful for the moments that are powerful.
100%.
You know what I mean? So I can't wait to hear about that day. And we're going to do a follow-up on that day, what it felt like walking out on that field. You know what I mean? Because that's going to be amazing. Somebody like you that's a professional athlete, one of the questions that I always like to ask is obviously you have the desire to dominate and be competitive and, you know, be the best. Like that's a part of the athletic spirit. That's that fire we all talk about.
Right.
Did you have that when you were really young, maybe from your childhood or from your brothers or like when did you realize that you kind of had that competitive fire?
It was definitely when I was young. So I started playing football in first grade. I played from first to eighth grade. And in that time frame, I lost one football game and then tied one. So I was on a team that we were the best team in the league every year, no doubt. And that was so cool. And I was like the quarterback, so I was like that, you know, whatever. So that was where my competitive edge came from. And my dad always used to say his favorite story of me as an athlete was one of the games we were losing at halftime. This had never happened in my entire career. So this was eighth grade year. We're losing at halftime. My dad was kind of like down on the field, but he wasn't really close to us. And we got out of like kind of our, you know, coaches talking to us. And he walked up to me and he was going to say like, you know, Caleb, you got this, right? And before he said anything, I looked at him and I said, we're winning this football game. And he said, didn't say a word. He was like, all right. He said, as soon as Caleb said that, he was like, I knew for a fact they were winning that football game. And guess what? We won the football game.
That's amazing, man. That type of belief in yourself is what it propels you to be who you are. You know what I mean? And that's That's the story that I think all people appreciate, is someone that just has that indomitable will. When things get difficult, they just step up. That's like what you see in the movies is, they're down at the half or there's 3 minutes on the clock and they find a way to win. Those are the type of people that, we just admire, we look up to, we value that type of spirit.
Right.
Let me shift this conversation a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pretend we could go 3 to 5 years in the future. What does your life look like? Where are you living? What is you're like, just tell me your life. 3 to 5 years from now, if you could imagine yourself in that moment, what does Caleb's life look like?
The team that gives me a chance in the MLB, I will be in the MLB in 4 years, minimum. That's getting to the MLB quick through the minors. I want to be in the MLB in 4 years. If I go to college next year, it'll be 4 years from there, so 5 years, like you said, 5 years from now. And I want to be that guy that everyone's talking about. I want my name on people's jerseys, and I don't want it for the glory or the fame of it. I want it to be people come to the field because they love to watch my energy. Like, they love to watch how much fun I have playing the game. Because that's the thing that I really love about baseball is I can be relaxed and still play a game for 9 innings and have a smile on my face through the entire thing. So in 5 years, I want to still be living here in Michigan. I want to still be training with Chris because Chris Down is amazing. I still want to be at this facility. This facility is also amazing. And but yeah, whichever team gives me a chance, I'm going to be on their field, and I want to be the person that people are coming to watch for the person that I am.
Living the dream, man.
Right.
I'm excited. I can't wait to see that. I believe it's going to happen. Like I said, I watch the aura you carry in this building. I see the energy. I see the way that you just radiate. You like exude that good feeling in life, that feeling of like, you know what, let's make something out of this life. Let's be something. You know what I mean? And people like to follow that. You connect with that. It's infectious energy. You know what I mean? If I had to ask you, strengths as a person and as an athlete, what is your greatest strength as a person, your greatest strength as an athlete? If you had to pick one characteristic about yourself.
With all the hard sadness that I've gone through my life, it's definitely getting back on my feet. It's getting knocked down and standing right back up and going again. And that is super important in baseball because you fail 70% of the time at the plate usually. Good average in the MLB is 300. So you're failing 70% of the time. So if you can't get back on your feet and go out there the next day after going 0 for 3, you're not going to be a good player. So I think what I've gone through my life it has helped, and it's going to continue helping me throughout my career in baseball.
That's an incredible way to look at it. 70% of the time that you step up to the plate, you're going to fail. Right. And to keep that same mindset that I can be great, I'm going to smash this next one out of the park, we're still going to win this game, that's amazing. And actually, I've had several speeches with our fighters that I think the number one trait for success in people, after I've studied people for so long, I've seen so many professional fighters, make it to their dreams, I think it's perseverance. Mm-hmm. I think it is the ability to handle obstacles and handle challenges and handle setbacks and being knocked down and get back up.
Right.
Because it trumps talent. It trumps all of the other things when you are just relentless. Exactly. Which no matter what comes your way, like you said, you filled your tank. You're getting hit by all these things that might be a tsunami to some people, and you're going, you know what? I have all the fuel I need for the next 3 years because of coronavirus, because of this, because of what happened with my father, because of this. That's incredible, man. You're an embodiment of perseverance.
Thank you.
So let's shift. If you could talk to a younger version of yourself, let's say you could go back to when you were 13 or 14, or let's say a young athlete that's trying to chase a dream, mm-hmm. Knowing where you are now and what you know now and what you've gone through, what would you tell that younger version of yourself?
It's always kind of cheesy, but when people say you can pretty much achieve anything if you really work towards it, like I said, I always thought it was super cheesy, but it really is true. So my roommate in Indiana, Drew Ashley, another one of my great friends, he's not very tall, but he doesn't look the part, right, as a baseball player. He's jacked. Oh my goodness. But he's not tall. And usually a short baseball player, they get overlooked all the time. They want height, right? This kid, as a freshman, went out, and I think he had like either the second best average on the team as a freshman. He's a utility player, plays absolutely every position, and he is the definition of an absolute dog. And he has worked for everything he has, everything. You know, without that height, you have to be so good at everything. Otherwise, everyone just says, oh, nah, you get eyed over, right? So I've also worked for everything I have. I'm athletic, naturally athletic, but there's people that they just get on a mound, for instance, as a pitcher, and they can just throw a 95. Literally, there's people. I know people like that. And it's like, I have worked to be able to hit as hard as I can. I have worked to be able to run as fast as I can. Everything. You work for it, and if you work the right way, that's another thing. You have to be working the right way. If you work the right way, you can achieve anything. So to any young person or my younger self, I would have said, start working smarter earlier, and you can achieve pretty much anything.
That's huge. Let's talk a little bit about Chris Down, actually. I'm sure he's going to tune into this interview. You know, a lot of people have heard of Chris Down in the community for baseball, for training, things like that. What separates him as a trainer, and some family in the community or some athlete is considering coming to work with Chris? Why should they?
I would say Chris Down is one of the best trainers in the entire country. I've worked with a lot of trainers. The reason he's so good is he's so innovative. Every single new piece of, what's it called? Working out or whatever it is that comes into the world that's researched or whatever it is. Everything that's new, Chris knows about it. He's researched it himself, and he's working to achieve those things, right? He's working with his own athletes with this new stuff. And it works so much better than the old stuff. Every new thing, it gets better, right? It's like with an iPhone. Every iPhone, they get better and better. It's the same thing with training. So he's the most innovative person I've ever met. Like, the dude works harder than anybody I've ever met. He goes home, and he was just telling me today, he films every single one of his athletes, every single pretty much set that they do and everything that he
I've
does.
witnessed it, everything.
Yeah, and he told me today he has, I think he said it was 60,000 videos on his phone, and he said he has spent at least 10 minutes on every single video out of that 60,000 videos on his phone to, one, learn the way the athlete's moving, and the next time he's with that athlete, he's working to make that movement better. So just the time that man puts in is unbelievable, and that is why he is the best trainer in I think, the country.
Chris, you need to clip this. You need to clip that section of the podcast. You need to put that online, and I think you just had your spokesperson, unpaid spokesperson for Chris Down.
One more thing, though, too, is he's the most caring person I've ever met.
Absolutely. He is incredibly emotionally involved with his athletes. You can see that immediately. You can see how much he genuinely cares about people's success. And that's the reason I brought him on board as a trainer here. When we started negotiating, hey, maybe we work together, as soon as I saw how involved he is at wanting other people to be successful, I was like, of course, that's what this program is about, is bringing in those type of leaders.
Right.
So we're going to wrap this thing up. I am going to do this thing since it's the first ever podcast. We're going to make it a trend at the end of the podcast. We're going to call it our final five, and I'm going to rattle off 5 questions to you, and they're kind of difficult, or some might be easy. Just give me your first response that comes to your mind. So, sports hero of yours?
Albert Pujols.
Greatest strength you think you have as a person?
Being able to get back on my feet when knocked down.
Greatest weakness?
Caring too much about people that don't care about you.
I've heard that answer a lot before. It seems to be a common theme, but it is not a bad thing to be a caring person. That's awesome. Greatest personal accomplishment thus far in your life?
Wow.
Dropped a bomb on you there. You got to hurry up and one thing you look back and you could encapsulate one moment of your life, one glimpse of time that you were like, that was really awesome.
Probably hitting 2 home runs in the same inning at the College World Series.
Yeah, that's legit. That's an accomplishment.
First time it's ever happened in World Series history in the junior college level.
Wow.
It was pretty wild.
And we're going to end with a tough one. The biggest mistake you feel you've made in life?
Jeez, those last 2 are tough. Biggest mistake.
I like people to see that mistakes and setbacks and past failures do not affect your ability to have a successful future. I feel like I meet a lot of people that they've made mistakes or they hold guilt from the past, and then they stop believing in their potential for the future. So I always like to ask that question of people that are successful so that others can see like, hey, man, this is a normal human being like me.
Right.
So, greatest or biggest mistake?
When I was at Indiana, when my dad got sick, I started partying a lot, trying to get my mind off that crap, you know. But at the same time, it's not crap. It's life, and you have to go through it. And I was doing my best to try and not go through it, and I think that hurt me quite a bit. So that was after Christmas break. I started really not caring after I got redshirted for a while. It was about a month where I was like, yeah, I'm annoyed. I'm pissed. I don't care. So I'm going to go party every weekend, and it doesn't do anything for you. As soon as it's over, you wake up, and it's still on your mind. It doesn't go away. So I wouldn't have done that in my life.
It's like a weird expression of depression.
It is.
It's weird. I've witnessed that before. When people are really struggling, they express like those deep feelings of depression in ways that they think are coping with it or distracting them or things like that. But really, you're probably just digging your hole deeper because now you're going to have to climb out of those experiences once you try to get back on your feet.
Exactly.
Caleb, it has been an honor to have you sit here with me today. In the history of the Michigan Institute of Athletics podcast, you're going to be the first ever guest.
Hey, I'm absolutely honored. It's so cool to be in this spot as, you know, a non-fighter in a fighting, like,
yeah.
This is so cool. So
yeah,
I appreciate it.
We're going to have 5 different series, and I figured, you know what, we're going to interview a million fighters. We're going to speak to all the people here. So let's kick this thing off with a regular athlete that comes in and trains alongside the fighters. There's actually a final question I'll ask you. The first time you were ever walking into Scorpion Fighting System and the Michigan Institute of Athletics, what expectations did you have of what like a professional fighter is like, and are they what you expected, or are they different?
Oh, my goodness. I had never seen full-on punches in person. Like, I'd never seen that. I'd just watched it on TV. And I'm pretty sure it was Parisian it was Cody. Cody was working with you. And I remember asking, I was like, could I film this? You remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
And I was blown away. It was just you working with him with like
Yep, I was running focus mitts with him, and
Yep.
I could see in your face, you were like, whoa, do you care if I get a clip of this?
Right. And I was like, oh, my. Those punches. If that happened to me, I'm out in one. A little jab, I'm down. And I was just blown away by the speed and the energy of this gym. The energy's sweet. Fighting energy that's probably the coolest part about this gym, is you walk in and you got all these fighters and you're looking up on the wall and you got their pro banners up there and they're right in front of you working. It's sweet.
That's one thing I think that's really unique about fighting is like the people that you watch on ESPN or you watch on Fox or that just fought in Brazil, you come in and take a class, you're training with them. Right. It's not like you're not just walking out on a baseball field and, hey, let me play catch with an MLB player. Or, you know, why don't you pitch? You can't. You don't do that. Right. So it's very bizarre that like you said, you walk in the academy. Cody is one in general that coming up, he's fighting for his UFC contract. And you were just hanging out with him while he's ripping mitts. You know what I mean? Exactly. So it's really a cool dynamic in the sport. So, again, Caleb, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to wrap this podcast up. Everybody that listened, if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure to give us a follow. It's going to be on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Come check out the Michigan Institute of Athletics in Brighton, Michigan. We give everybody a free week. Come see Chris Down. Come see all the other trainers that we have here. Come be a part of the energy and the environment and change your life for the better. So, thank you guys for being here. Thank you again, Caleb.